You walk into a coffee shop you've never been to before. A stranger behind the counter hands you your drink. You don't flinch. You don't check their hands twice. You just take it and walk away. But the real answer for why you did that is far stranger than manners or habit. Your brain made a decision about that stranger in less than 1/10 of a second. Before you even registered their name tag. Before they spoke a word. Somewhere behind your eyes, a judgment was already made. Trustworthy or not. Safe or not. Friend or threat. This happens every single time you see a new face, and you have almost no control over it. Think about that for a moment. You are running a constant, invisible background check on every human you meet. Where did that system come from? Who built it? Nobody did, not on purpose. It was built by your ancestors over hundreds of thousands of years in a world where a wrong guess about a stranger could mean death. Princeton psychologist Alexander Todorov spent years studying exactly how fast this judgment happens. In his research, participants were shown unfamiliar faces for just 100 milliseconds. That is barely enough time to blink. And still, they formed confident opinions. Trustworthy, aggressive, competent, weak. The judgments were consistent across almost everyone tested. Different people, different backgrounds, same snap verdict on the same face. Here is the strange part. Giving people more time to look didn't change their minds much. It just made them more confident in the decision they had already made in that first flash. Your brain isn't slowly building a case about a stranger's character. It's pattern matching against something ancient. Something that was shaped long before cities, before writing, before agriculture. Picture an early human standing at the edge of a clearing. A figure appears from the trees. There is no time for a conversation. No time to gather references or check credentials. There is only a fraction of a second to decide. Approach, freeze, or run. The humans who guessed wrong again and again didn't get to pass on their genes. The humans who guessed right, even imperfectly, survived long enough to raise children who inherited that same fast, snap judgment machinery. This is why your brain doesn't wait for evidence. Evidence is slow. Evidence in the ancestral world could get you killed. What your brain wanted instead was speed. Rough accuracy delivered instantly beats perfect accuracy delivered too late. So what exactly is your brain measuring in that first flash? Researchers have found it isn't really about beauty or even familiarity. It's about specific features that once carried survival information. Wide eyes and raised eyebrows read as approachable, because that expression resembles surprise or submission, not aggression. A face shaped closer to what's considered average, blended, symmetrical, reads as safer, because it resembles the wider population rather than standing out as unusual or unpredictable. None of this happens in words. Your brain never tells you why it trusts a face. It just hands you the feeling fully formed and lets you believe you reason your way there. This same instinct, though, is also where things go wrong. Because the system evolved to read faces in small, tight-knit groups, not in a globalized world full of billions of unfamiliar faces from cultures your ancestors never encountered. A signal that once meant something useful in a small band of 50 people now gets applied broadly, and often unfairly, to people it was never designed to judge. Todorov's research showed that these split-second facial judgments quietly influence real-world outcomes. Political candidates whose faces were rated as more competent in blind snap judgment tests were more likely to win elections, even when participants knew nothing else about them. Job candidates, loan approvals, courtroom sentencing, the same ancient shortcut, now applied to decisions it was never built for. There's a name for the deeper mechanism behind all of this. Psychologists call it thin slicing, the brain's ability to find patterns in very limited information and extrapolate a full judgment from it. Harvard psychologist Nalini Ambady studied this extensively, showing that people could accurately predict a teacher's end-of-semester evaluations after watching just a few seconds of silent video. No sound, no context, just movement, posture, and expression. And the predictions lined up remarkably well with months of real classroom experience. Your brain isn't guessing randomly. It's running a fast, ancient algorithm that is often eerily accurate and sometimes badly, dangerously wrong. Why does this matter to you, specifically today? Because you're still living inside a body built for a world that no longer exists. Your ancestors met maybe a few hundred faces in an entire lifetime. You might see that many in a single scroll through your phone. Every stranger on the street, every profile picture, every face on a screen gets run through the same primal filter that once decided who to let into camp at night. And there's something else. This isn't only about how you judge others. It's also about how you're judged. The moment you meet someone new, they're running the exact same fast calculation on you. Your resting expression, the angle of your eyebrows, whether your face at rest, defaults to something that reads as warm or something that reads as guarded. You didn't choose your face's default setting any more than you chose your fingerprints. And yet it is quietly shaping how strangers treat you before you've said a single word. Consider how much of modern life still runs on this ancient wiring. Dating apps, built entirely around faces flashed in fractions of a second. Job interviews, where first impressions form before the interviewer has read your resume. Even the design of characters in film and animation leans hard into these instincts, giving villains sharper angles and heroes softer, rounder features, because audiences respond to those shapes before any dialogue is spoken. You're surrounded by systems built by other humans that exploit a judgment machine forged in the Pleistocene. Here's the twist that makes this even stranger. You cannot turn this system off. You can be aware of it. You can override it with logic, with evidence, with time spent actually getting to know someone. But you cannot stop that first flash of judgment from happening. It fires before your conscious mind is even in the room. Some researchers describe it as the brain protecting you from having to consciously evaluate every single person you encounter, which would be exhausting and slow in a world full of strangers. The shortcut exists because the alternative, treating every face as a fresh, effortful puzzle, simply wasn't sustainable for a brain trying to survive. So the next time you meet someone new and you feel an instant pull toward trust or an instant flicker of unease, know what that actually is. It isn't wisdom. It isn't proof. It's an ancient survival algorithm, running silently, shaped by ancestors who never saw a smartphone, a subway car, or a stranger from another continent, doing the only job it ever learned to do. Guess fast and hope it's right. You walked into that coffee shop, took your drink from a stranger, and never thought twice. But somewhere behind your eyes, in less time than it takes to blink, 100,000 years of survival history had already made up its mind about them.